Okay, this is the third and final part of my rewiring video, and we're going to sort all this out. This is a mixture of my point wiring, isolating tracks and signals, and as you can see it is just a complete jumble. So we're going to sort it out. I've numbered up under the baseboard which point is which, so I'm going to start with this one here, point number 1. And all I'm going to have to do is just go around and rewire each one individually in turn, and that'll gradually sort all this out. So this time I'm going to wire up the terminal block a little bit differently. You can see that I've put a little linking wire between those two terminals there, and what that does is it links the two banks together. So when I put a wire in here or in there, all these are connected. If you just look on the rear, you can see there's two banks, and because I've put the linking wire in there, those are now connected. So with the black wire coming in here from the controller, I can plug into any one of these terminals. So this is my uncontrolled output on my controller, and this wire connects to the bank of switches down there, and this wire here is the bus wire. So I'm going to disconnect this wire, just pull that and pull that out if I can with one hand. There we go. And my new wire will connect from there to the terminal block. Okay, the bulk of my points and accessories etc. sort of in this area, which is why all the wires are here. So I think we'll just put the bus into the middle of all that mess, and that should make it reasonably accessible. Okay, so that's firmly in place. So I'm just going to pop in the wire that will connect to the controller. Put that in nice and tight. And we'll just cut this wire to the required length. Don't want it to be too tight. I think that'll probably just about do it. Okay, so I can now fix this wire in place. So just pop this wire into the uncontrolled output. Come on, in you go. There we are. And that's the terminal now connected to the controller. So this is my point number 1 here, which is also linked up to a signal, but I just want to rewire the point at the moment, so I'm just going to pull these wires and we shall sort them out. So that's point number 1 rewired. I've got my red and green wires going back, pinned up to the board, going back to the switch, and the black wire now goes to the terminal bus. So 1 point done and 13 to go. This is going to take me a bit of time to sort out. So in the meantime, here's some diagrams to explain just what I've been doing, and by the magic of video editing we'll come back and this will all magically be completed, hopefully. So this diagram shows roughly what I've got at the moment. I've got 14 points in my layout, so I'm not going to show that in a diagram, but you know, this has got 4 points and the principle's the same. So these are my point motors there, there, there and there. And the red and green wires from each point motor connect directly to the relevant switch. The switches are then plugged together, and then there's a wire connecting the bank of switches to the uncontrolled output of the controller. Another wire from the uncontrolled output from the controller acts as a bus wire, and that's for the black wires from the switch. So essentially that's the common wire, and so the black wire from each point motor connects to this bus wire. So that's what I've got at the moment, and it works absolutely fine. But when you've got a lot of points, and if you keep adding on points, and as I'm doing now, adding signals into this, because the signals wire in exactly the same way, then it starts to get a bit messy. So this is what I'm changing it to. So instead of the black bus wire going round the layout for the black wires from the point motors, I'm fitting the terminal block. So now the black wires from the point motors will connect to the terminal block. The red and green wires remain exactly the same and the switching is exactly the same. I'll tidy it all up though, of course. So what this means, as I add more signals, or if ever I wanted to add more points or whatever, it becomes much easier than it would have been before, and I really wished I'd done it this way from the start. So let's just say I want to add a signal here. Signals have a red wire, a green wire and a black wire exactly the same as the points. So the red and green wire will go to the switch for the signal, and that's an on switch. That's why I've made it yellow there. And the black wire will just get screwed into the terminal block. So I'm not having to cut into a bus wire and splice it together and solder it and tape it up or anything. It's a very simple case of just screw the common wire into the terminal block. So that's the plan. Let's get onto the baseboard again. So after a good few hours of rewiring, that's it pretty much done. Let's just have a bit of a closer look. So that's the bus for track 1, that's the bus for track 2, and that is my accessories bus. So all my points and all my signals wire into that, at least the black wires do. All the red and green wires go to the switches up there. And as you can see, it has left a complete tangle of wires still. It's kind of very difficult to avoid that unless I was to completely redo it from scratch, and I simply don't have the time or the will to do that. So it really was just a case of, you know, sorting out the existing wires, shortening them, rerouting them and tidying them up a little bit and wiring it into the bus. So I've kind of gone from a big dangly mess of wires to a more compact mess of wires. But it's a lot better. It maybe doesn't look great, but it doesn't matter because it's underneath the baseboard. But it makes more sense to me now when I look at it. Before I used to look under the baseboard and I really had no idea what wire was which unless I traced it back from switch to accessory or whatever. So it's certainly a lot better than it was. One thing left to do is to label things. So this will get labelled as track 1 bus, track 2 bus, switch wires, I'll need to label them. The accessory bus I'll label, it's pretty obvious what it is. And I'll fit labels to all the pairs of wires. So I'll be able to tell much more easily what's what if I ever have to redo anything. I will be adding some more signals over here, so there'll be more wires going across to the switches, and I think I've got about 5 terminals free on this bus. And the other thing I want to do is to add lighting. So that's probably going to need a separate bus altogether. That'll be a completely different circuit. Up at the switches I've fitted little cable clips just to keep all the wires in place. Because these switches, these Hornby switches, they're really bad for these plugs coming out. They don't fit in very securely. I've put them in there just now, but I think what I might do is put a strip of wood or something across just to clamp the wires down to stop them getting pulled out. One thing I haven't done is fit a capacitor discharge unit. They're not entirely necessary really. But if I was to fit 2 points off one switch, which I could do, I could work that point there, point number 5, and point number 10, that one there, that could work off one switch, because generally speaking, I would never ever use that point without switching that point as well. So that's something I may do at some point. And I did try it without the capacitor, and no, it doesn't work. So yeah, I may look into that at some point, but at the moment they're all wired individually and they all work, so I'm not going to fit a capacitor discharge unit at this time, but I may do. So that has been a bit of a chore to do, I've got to admit, but I'm glad it's done, and because it's so much better looking under there now and not seeing that great big dangling mess of wires. So I'm glad that's all sorted out, and I can now get back to just having some fun playing with the trains. Alrighty ho folks, catch you later.